The difficult thing is we're talking about the U.S. government, so it's kind of like,
do you trust them?
No, it's like, do you think they're competent? Do you think that they have accurate record keeping? What is it? The DOD just failed another audit, like 7th time in a row.
Yeah, for $800 billion.
There's people have no idea what they're doing in terms of records, and probably a lot of it's on purpose.
Tim, I want you to pull up Wernher von Braun's Tombstone. And obviously these guys are doctors, scientists, astronomers. I'm not a scientist whatsoever. Obviously, I'm an idiot. But this is why I believe in this stuff. Now, if you type in Wernher von Braun, you type in his headstone, it has Psalm 19:1.
Yeah.
If you look up Psalm 19:1, and for the people that are playing at home that don't know who Wernher von Braun is, Wernher von Braun was a Nazi that we brought over during Operation Paperclip, and a lot of people call Tim a Nazi. They call me a Nazi. But believe it or not, our space program was created by an actual Nazi.
Well, we took him, right? Like
yes,
with
Operation Paperclip. We not just took him, we took a lot of their scientists.
What was the Japanese? What was it called? There was two operations, weren't there? We took the Japanese scientists and the Nazi scientists.
Well, Paperclip's the one where we took after World War II. We took, and then Russia got a lot of the
Unit 571 or whatever.
Russia got a lot of like the technology. But my point is, I think it's very
731. Wait.
So that Wernher von Braun Psalm 19:1, and if you look that up, this is the architect of our space program, right, Scott?
So fun story about that. Before I even knew about this tombstone, I like to play video games occasionally. I have an Xbox 360 profile. That's how old I am, right? And my old Xbox 360 profile, I'm a Christian. I had that same verse on my Xbox 360 profile, but it doesn't mean that I think that there's a physical dome. It refers to...
Let me read it. So, Wernher von Braun, 1912, 1977, Psalms 19:1, which reads, "The heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the work of his hands."
And in some translations, they refer to the heavens as the
firmament.
firmament.
The actual Hebrew,
in the Hebrew it says firmament. Type in
firm, stereom as the
Is that
Greek.
King
Let's
James
try.
version?
You want me to do King James? Which version of the Bible?
Yeah, King James.
Yeah, King James.
21st century King James.
I think that's
Sure.
Yeah, there you
The
go.
heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork.
Yeah, and this will spill over into a theological debate. Obviously, the biblical cosmology.
So Elon's faking it.
So,
Maybe.
So there's
Maybe.
all. There's
maybe.
all kinds of. Who knows what happens when you get up there? How far you're going?
Elon's whole mission is to shatter the firmament to escape the realm, or what?
It's
I
funny
don't
because
know.
I hope this gets clipped, and I hope Elon sees this, because Elon all day long brags about how these rockets are, taking off and going to the ISS or whatever. Yet, Tim, this is a provable fact. The farthest that NASA has ever sent a rocket is
the moon.
1969 through 1972, the Apollo moon missions that went through the Van Allen radiation belt, which that's a whole kit and caboodle. Like, how were we able to get this film through this deadly radiation back and forth? How did that work? But my point is, we had rockets that could go 257,000 miles in 1969, and today the farthest we can go is low Earth orbit, which is what is it, 120 miles? What is low Earth orbit? How far is it?
500.
Yeah, like 500. I'm saying so. Rockets in 1969 could go 257,000 miles, and now the farthest we can go is 500 miles. It's a pretty big reduction considering it's been 60 years.
Elaborate on that. What do you mean it's the farthest we can go?
The farthest we can go right now, Barack Obama, you can pull it up, it's called low Earth orbit. That's where the ISS is.
The question is, are you talking about the limitations of technology?
But we didn't have that limit of technology in 1969.
No, I'm asking if that's what you mean, because if I said I can't get to the gas station, am I talking about running there? Am I talking about driving a car there? Is my car broken? Like, when you say the farthest, okay, my point is this. Did we have rockets capable of going that fast we no longer have? Or is the technology and knowledge of how to build those rockets missing?
Well, we had that technology and we destroyed that technology. That's it. According to NASA, is that we had the technology to go to the moon and we accidentally destroyed it. And not only did we destroy the technology and all the blueprints, but we also accidentally destroyed all the telemetry data that gives us coordinates of every point that the Apollo mission was orbiting the moon or, on its,
I hear what you're saying, and the difficult thing is we're talking about the U.S. government, so it's kind of like,
do you trust them?
No, it's like, do you think they're competent? Do you think that they have accurate record keeping? The DOD just failed another audit, like 7th time in a row.
Yeah, for $800 billion.
There's people have no idea what they're doing in terms of records, and probably a lot of it's on purpose.
Well, this is how you know it's fake, though, Tim, because there's all these. There's all these movies where they'll show like this is how you know it's fake, because there's like a DEI movie of like black women, and no offense, I love black women, I love Medea, but they literally made a movie that like a black woman with a calculator is able to hand compute our calculations to go to the moon.
What does that mean? It's fake.
Because a black woman can't sit there with a calculator. Have you seen it?
But why is it
explain?
no, hold on.
Why are you emphasizing this?
Yeah, it's black. What does that have to do with
Well, it's
it?
nothing about the race. I'm just saying. No offense to. I don't think a woman could do it. It's not. I mean, it's not. It's nothing to do with.
But
race.
a man could.
But I'm saying that's the DEI. It's like they want to make you think like it was all because
No.
you know.
The reason they made the movie was DEI. The person existed.
And I don't think they did much. But I'm just saying our space
That's
technology.
white supremacy, Alex.
Well, maybe a little bit, but our space technology is the only thing to retard. We have not gone further in space. We've actually traveled less.
Alex, can you name any of the technologies we lost?
Yeah. We can't shoot. Okay, first of all, I can't name off the top of my head, but I can tell you this much: when it goes to the moon landing, the manpower that it took us to get to the moon, yet we get to the moon, and the moon is 1/6 our Earth's atmosphere of gravity. Yet the rocket power that it took to blast off from the moon was not even 1/1000th the power that it took us to leave the Earth. And then on top of that, if you see...
Well, now we're talking about the moon landing.
Because the moon landing is involved in this, and you look at the moon landing clips, where the blast crater is, there's no dust, there's nothing. There's not even dust on the...
Well, so we'll go back a little bit because, I don't want to jump too far, but keep put a tag on that. I don't want to miss that point. We lose technology all the time. It's actually like a well-known thing. I mean, one of the greatest travesties of human history was the burning of the Library of Alexandria. Who knows what information was lost? Probably a lot of stupid stuff was in there, but there's probably a lot of stuff that we're like, wow. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I mean this literally. Wasn't there something big about Romans had concrete that set underwater?
Yeah.
We're not quite sure how they did it.
We lost the formula.
Yeah,
Didn't get it back until what, 17 or 1800s?
Yeah. And so when people say things like, "Oh, well, how come we can't do this now?" And I'm like, well, I got to be honest, like the priorities of the Cold War shifted dramatically, and then you're asking if a government bureaucracy with filing cabinets accurately tracked those filing cabinets. And I'm gonna be like, yeah, right. they can't figure out how to. They just spent $70,000 on a conference table because they don't know who's spending what where. The government is broken and ridiculously inefficient. Your best argument against the moon landing is that the government's too stupid to pull something like that off.
Well, they also use incompetence as a cover too, right? Like they do that.
They're actually real smart.
Well, no. It's just a great cover where every time they do something wrong, it's like, oh, it was an incompetent mistake. One thing people don't know is because I heard Matt Walsh say, because I'm looking at Matt Walsh here, he says,
We have the thing on the table.
yeah. He said, too many people would be in on it. But Krantz talks about how in the control room that the simulations were so good that no one involved would know. It got to the point where you couldn't tell the difference between the simulation and the fake. So, I mean, that's a whole conversation.
Well, let me ask you, Doctor, do you think we went to the moon?
I think it's possible to go to the moon, but I think it's very hard, especially in 1969, to send a man to the moon. That's where I have the difficulty.
And wouldn't they post up there be the best military positioning ever, right? Like you just be on patrol of the world.
Well, and you know how we didn't go to the moon because we'd have a Coca-Cola sign on it. It would be the best marketing tool.
Well, they
in the
say
world.
that we put these laser reflectors on the moon.
Yes,
it's hard to refute if because I don't know whether they went to the moon or not. But they say they bounce lasers off of these laser reflectors at the moon.
Yeah, like
they were able to bounce lasers off the moon before they left.
It won't tell you that part.
Yeah.
But
if you move the laser a little off the retroreflector, you get a much lower signal. So what's causing that?
So you admit that you can shoot a laser off the moon.
Let's get what's his name? What's the guy with the big lasers on YouTube here? Can't think of his name. Styropyro. Let's get Styropyro involved. I want to shoot lasers.
I was actually a long time ago. I was with some buddies, and we were working on a laser project with crazy ideas of using refraction in the clouds to create a visible signal so that you could transmit data long range by using a high-powered infrared laser. And at the point of refraction, you would actually be able to point a lens at it and collect really low latency data, which could transmit communications simply by looking in the direction of where you know the laser to be. So to the human eye, they see nothing. There's no way to intercept a radio signal because the beam of light shot straight in the sky. You then use a lens capable of detecting infrared, and it can give you low latency data so that you can communicate over a battlefield without someone intercepting your signals or satellite communications.
Well, speaking of World War II, Austin, explain how the Germans were able to steal signals.
This is a big.
Listen to this, Tim. You'll like this.
It's a big flat Earth proof. So, in World War II, the Germans developed so what they would do is they would fly the planes in blind, right? So no one knew. So it would be pitch black, and they would use radar beams to guide the planes. And so they would use intersecting beams, and they would know, okay, this is where I need to go. That way, no one knew where they were at. Then they thought, wait, we can do this kind of in reverse, and we can attack this way. We can show the plane where to drop the bomb if we actually intersect the beams. Once it gets there and it has a coherent signal, it'll know, oh, I dropped the bomb. So this was actually proposed to the British, and they turned it down because like, no, this won't work because the radius of the Earth is going to block those signals way before any tactical position. The Germans did it. And the Germans did it from 400 or 500 miles away. They intercepted these two signals, and first attempt just destroyed a warehouse that was manufacturing engines and stuff. And it should have been blocked at roughly 30 miles, according to the globe Earth math. And they sent it hundreds of miles and successfully blew up the building. I'm definitely open to some type of explanation for that because that is not physically possible, and it has to have specific coherency. So, beams obviously they spread out and diverge as they go further, but it had to have a maximum width of a few hundred yards. It intercepted in a very precise way so that the plane could blow.
Now, here's the other issue. The Allies claimed that their ability to bomb so accurately at night was because they ate carrots. You guys know the story?
No.
A rumor was spread that there was high carrot consumption, which improved their eyesight, and that's why they were so good at hitting targets at night when it was actually a technological development they didn't want the Germans to know that we had. So my point in this is the challenge, obviously, for all of these conversations goes back to just like the standard philosophical, are you just trusting something you read? And so how much of it is I did a study that could not confirm X, which is very limited data because you have to try and replicate it multiple times, and then depending on your view of modern science, you'd want some kind of peer review. So if you're telling a story about how the Germans did this thing, it's like, or they lied, or the Germans lied.
They blew up the warehouse at night somehow, right?
Yeah, they had a spy, and they didn't want the Allies to know that they had a spy who gave them accurate information and timing and telemetry, etc.
Or they stole the signal. But Tim,
the challenge is that there's good reason for one of the questions about aliens. Why does the United States claim, these hearings where they're like, there are aliens here, and then you had that one guy in the 90s, I can't remember his name, but he was on Joe Rogan, who's talking about how he saw aliens. The purpose of that is actually relatively simple. They could be trying to convince our adversaries that we hold secret technologies that can destroy them, that they can't figure out what we have. So for the Germans to say like, oh, we did this thing with radar, the U.S. is like, but that's impossible. We can't figure it out. The confusion and the fear in your enemy is valuable to lie. So those stories could be, who knows?
Sure, but if we get to the point where we all agree, if we were to agree that would falsify the globe if real, now we've made like fruitful progress, right? Because then we'd be like, well, let's try to imitate this. Now, obviously, imitating that's not going to happen, really.
Occam's razor would suggest the Germans just lied.
Maybe. It's actually acknowledged. It's acknowledged by even the Allies that they use this technology, and I'll even go a step further and tell you the supposed explanation as to how it happened on the globe, and this is all anyone's ever said, is diffraction. That basically the Earth would block the beam and then it would fill back in behind it, and it would keep doing that. The problem is that wouldn't maintain the coherency needed to intercept the beams, and I've never got a next rebuttal. So, good point. Obviously, I wasn't there. I can't verify that. I've gone and tested the Earth myself. That's actually my primary reason.
You believe the Earth is round?
Yeah.
So what is how do you feel about it?
I don't know. I have never heard this before, so I'd have to investigate it.
What?
Your point, if I can elaborate on your point, that they could have lied, it could have been this, could have been that,
yeah,
and we don't know. Okay, so let's go back to this Earth fixed or not fixed issue, and there's another experiment that was interpreted in two different ways by many scientists, and that was the 1887 Michaelson-Morley experiment. Very simple experiment. You probably know about it, right? Okay, so if the Earth is moving around the sun at about 20 miles a second, and you shoot a light beam in the direction that the Earth is moving, that light beam should be impeded by space. At that time, they thought ether. Okay, so space is a something. It's not a nothing, because nothing does not exist. So it has to be something. Something's going to impede that light beam, and they could tell you by how much that light beam would be impeded. They can figure it out, okay?
The speed of the Earth.
Yeah. So here's the problem. It didn't show any resistance to the light beam, space, okay? They couldn't measure anything. It measured just a little bit, but not enough for an Earth going around the sun, okay? So the obvious interpretation of that experiment is, well, the Earth isn't moving. That's why there wasn't any impedance of the light beam. Okay? Well, we can't have that because we're all Copernicans, you see. We believe since the time of Copernicus that the Earth does move around the sun. So there has to be another explanation. This is where your lie may come in, you see. The explanation is there is no ether. And the light beam couldn't be impeded because the ether doesn't exist, which is a la special relativity. That's Einstein's special relativity in a nutshell. Okay? So here's another way to explain the same experiment as opposed to a fixed Earth. Which one's correct? Okay? So we went on for a while where, okay, Einstein has to be correct. We all want to be Copernicans. We don't want to kiss the feet of the Pope. So we'll take his explanation. Okay? And then 10 years later, Einstein comes back and tells us, well, the special theory really doesn't work all that well because it's in a pristine environment. You have no inertial forces, you have no ether, you have no nothing. And that's why the light beam can go the same speed. But what if we have a big universe where we have gravity, we have inertial forces, we have heat, we have all kinds of things that could impede that light beam? And so guess what? Einstein took back the ether that he had gotten rid of in the special relativity theory. Okay? So if you take back the ether, then how are you going to explain Michaelson Morley?
Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, so subscribe and come hang out.